Katherine Bark, who is the Program Manager for the Utah Department of Health, Office of Home Visiting, and Laurieann Thorpe, Executive Director of Prevent Child Abuse Utah, who just so happens to also be a dear friend of mine over the years through this work together. So Katherine and Laurieann will tell us more about home visiting services and the role they play in ensuring safe, stable, nurturing relationships and environments for all of Utah's children. So it is my privilege to turn the time over to Katherine and to Laurieann.
Thanks, Deandra. So I hope that the tab at the top isn't too distracting for folks. If I share this way, I can also see your faces, which is helpful for me. So as Deandra said, I am the program manager for the Office of Home Visiting with the Utah Department of Health. So we provide contracts and funding to different local health departments as well as not-for-profit agencies around the state to provide evidence-based home visiting. So that said, we work with two models, and that those models I'll get into detail in a little bit, but we provide services for anyone who is either pregnant or has a child up to the age of 6 or kindergarten entry somewhere, whichever comes first.
And I'm Laurieann Thorpe with Prevent Child Abuse Utah. I'm the executive director, but I think I'm going to introduce myself from now on as Deandra's dear friend. And it'll just replace my name eventually, Deandra's friend. So happy to be here today. So happy to talk with you about home visiting, because I just believe in its ability to transform lives. And we thought it would be such a great idea today for you to see how that has worked in action and to hear from home visitors. So that's going to be the majority of what we talk about today. Prevent Child Abuse Utah is the oldest and only nonprofit in the state whose sole mission is the prevention of child abuse. And I'm proud to say that we're coming up, I think we're 40 years old. So that's a pretty big milestone that we are just hitting. And we are so happy to be able to understand what the research tells us about what is protecting children and to be able to be on the forefront of that with our home visiting efforts in the state.
All right, so as a little bit of background on home visiting in Utah, there are multiple different types of home visiting, but as Deandra mentioned, we're specifically focusing today on evidence-based home visiting. So when people talk about home visiting in Utah, you could be talking about evidence-based or non-evidence-based programs. One of the most commonly known is TCM, or Targeted Case Management, which is run out of local health departments, but is not always an evidence-based program. That said, the programs that we primarily fund in Utah are Parents as Teachers and the Nurse Family Partnership Program, and we'll give you a little bit more detail on those. But the other evidence-based programs in Utah that are supported and have evidence-based outcomes are also the Attachment Biobehavioral Catch-Up, Early Head Start's home-based model, and Family Spirit. We won't really get into the detail of those specific programs at this point, but if anyone has questions, feel free to reach out and I'm happy to answer any questions about those or connect you to the right people as well. So Nurse Family Partnership is an evidence-based program that focuses specifically on first-time mothers and who are at their pregnancy no later than the end of their 28th week of pregnancy. So those are the two primary factors that are required to enroll in Nurse Family Partnership. The other factors are an income eligibility guideline, and that's really determined by the funder. So it's 185% of the federal poverty level in Salt Lake County or 200% in Weber County. And those are currently the only two counties in the state of Utah where Nurse Family Partnership is offered. The Parents as Teachers program has a little bit of looser restrictions. You can be pregnant at any phase in your pregnancy or have a child prior to kindergarten entry and then be at or below 185% of federal poverty. And those are the only requirements for Parents as Teachers. So those programs are the two primary programs that we'll focus on today. And all of the home visitors that you'll be hearing from, as well as the family we have who is going to talk about their experience with home visiting, are all enrolled or working within the Parents as Teachers model. Laurieann, do you want to talk about the pilot?
Yes, so we're really excited about, there was a question in the chat box that I think is a good one to answer here. In Weber County, we're putting together a really creative collaboration of home visiting, some with evidence-based programs and some with, evidence, we like them, but they don't have the evidence-based platform. So we have created sort of a tiered approach to home visiting in Weber County. So we will be able to offer nurse-family partnership for families who qualify, parents as teachers for families who don't qualify for nurse-family partnership, but do qualify for parents as teachers. And then for anyone that falls outside of those qualifications, they will be able to participate in home visiting through Welcome Baby through United Way of Northern Utah. So we're really excited about the ability to kind of hit families with where they are and how they qualify, but anyone at all who's interested in Weber will be able to participate in some form of home visiting. So we're really excited about that. The nurse family partnership, by the way, the reason that it isn't as widespread across the state is because it's an incredibly expensive model of home visiting. We did have nurse family partnership more broadly in the state of Utah, but then the funding disappeared for that. So that's why Parents as Teachers is a more economical, evidence-based home visiting model. So that is one that the Office of Home Visiting supports as well. But it's really just a matter of funding. If we can find some funding sources, we'd love to see nurse family partnership grow and expand. So we're excited about this opportunity in terms of what it will mean for families in Weber County. And we hope that it's a model that can expand across the state as we see success. Our partners on the project are the ones that are listed here, but also, so it's Prevent Child Abuse Utah is providing the home visiting, the Parents as Teachers, and the nurse family partnership. And then United Way provides the Welcome Baby, but we also have United Way helping with receiving the referrals, and we have a really strong partnership with Intermountain Healthcare, who is providing a lot of the we just need them. They're just like it would be a little hard to tell you all the things that they're providing for us to make this possible, but they are a critical part of the team. So important for us to be able to have healthcare as part of what we're doing and to provide the place where families can learn about home visiting.
So kind of as a landscape, so you can see what it looks like. This is the green on the map are where home visiting programs are provided and supported through state and federal dollars. I will note that there are significantly more counties, and when I say state and federal dollars, sorry, I should specify through the Office of Home Visiting. There are also federal and state dollars through the Department of Workforce Services, as well as the Department of Human Services, that also provide evidence-based home visiting services in other counties as well. And then PCAU also provides services in Davis and Box Elder County. But this kind of gives you a brief snapshot of what the majority of federal and state home visiting dollars is going to. As Laurieann mentioned, we would love to see home visiting services expand, but we are limited due to funding restrictions. So just as a little bit of context about home visiting in Utah. Home visiting in Utah, as we're talking about these statistics coming up, will encompass all of those evidence-based home visiting programs that we were talking about earlier. So it's a combination of the attachment biobehavioral catch-up, early Head Start's home-based option, nurse family partnership, and Parents as Teachers in Utah. So statewide, there were 26 agencies that operated in 2020, and this is the calendar year 2020, with about 1,600 children who were served. The breakdown demographically is shown here, primarily 82% white, which is one of the things that we're working on targeting, is really identifying and having a representation that is more reflective of our state's population and for those who are enrolled in home visiting programs. Some of the things that we look at also are primary languages. One of the biggest barriers for home visiting pretty consistently is because of the structure and format of home visiting, requiring that it's a really relationship built between the home visitor as well as the parent, as well as the parents and the families who are enrolled in those programs. It requires a consistent and regular relationship and communication and visits and meetings. So it's really difficult to utilize translators. It is okay if the family has English as a secondary or multiple language but does speak it, or if you have alternative language speaking home visitors. However, unless you have somebody who's able to speak joint languages between the home visitor and the parents, it's difficult to have a home visiting program accessible to those who don't have commonality in language. That said, it's estimated that there are over 293,000 children in the state of Utah alone who could benefit from home visiting. So that includes families, 212,000 families with pregnant women or children under the age of 6 who are not yet enrolled in kindergarten who could benefit from it. So when you're thinking about the numbers of about 1,600 families who are actually receiving services versus the almost 300,000 who could benefit from home visiting services, there's a pretty significant gap between what home visiting services could provide versus what we're able to provide based off of funding. So one of the primary sources of funding for home visiting in the state of Utah is the maternal, infant, and early childhood home visiting funding. So that's federal funding that provides a large chunk of our home visiting services in the state. So that's where the majority of our funding is coming from when it comes to home visiting. And that serves about just under 500 families on average in a year-to-year basis. So one of the things that we think about or talk about is a lot of the time they'll look at risk factors as they identify them. Not the best language to be used, but that's the federal language use, so we use it consistently. But these are some of the factors that they're looking for when you're identifying families to enroll in home visiting. The reason that these risk factors are used is because we have limited availability of slots for home visiting. However, in other states and other cities, they do have universal home visiting. So instead of an opt-in to a home visiting program, it's an opt-out choice. So every single family that has a child is automatically enrolled into home visiting unless they choose to opt out. In an ideal world, we would love to get there. But the reason that we focus on these risk factors is because these are the factors that identify families who could potentially benefit from home visiting. But also these are the spaces where evidence-based shows that home visiting has been successful in having interventions. So as Deandra mentioned at the beginning, there is evidence base that shows decrease in intimate partner violence, decreases in child maltreatment, decreases in substance abuse or successful rehabilitation from substance use disorders, and things like that associated directly with home visiting programs. So for the primary purpose of home visiting, there are significant outcomes that are tracked, and this is at the federal level, but all of the programs that we're talking about today do track multiple outcomes. And these are all outcomes, again, as I said, that have been proven to be successful and have really good results as a result of home visiting interventions. A couple of the things that the federal government is doing currently is shifting their focus to include substance use as a focus for what outcomes are coming out of the home visiting program. So the federal government has just added, starting in October of 2021, an optional view so that they can start tracking how many families are receiving substance use screenings, as well as referrals to substance use agencies for those who are screening positive. So That said, that's a really brief and quick overview of home visiting. What we're going to give you in the breakout sessions is there will be a home visitor in each of the breakout rooms who's going to give you a really good and in-depth overview of what a day in the life of the home visitor is, and you'll be able to talk to them directly. But before we go into breakouts, we're really lucky today in that we have a family here who's going to talk about their personal experience with home visiting.
So this is a family, Madison Gardner, who is with us today, and she can tell you a little bit more about her family, and her home visitor is also here with us today. So you'll get to hear from her about her experience. Madison, take it away.
Oh, sorry, I don't know if you can you guys hear and see me, or can you guys hear me?
Yep, you're
Yes.
good.
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry you guys, we're outside. My kiddos are playing in the water. So Marin is our home visitor, and she is a godsend. She is absolutely fantastic. I didn't even know this kind of thing existed until I had posted something on Facebook. I was just having, oh gosh, what was, I don't remember the initial issue, but I was just having this really big problem with my kiddos. And I know like every kid goes through growing stage. I just didn't know what to do about it. And like, I'm that kind of person, I just Google things. But even like with Googling, I was like, I still wasn't coming up with what I was looking for. And I was like, oh man, is this just gonna phase? Hopefully this is gonna pass. So when I had posted on Facebook about it, I was hoping to get some advice from some of my friends, like, what did you guys do with your kids at this age? I'm having this problem. And then Marin actually commented, and she's like, hey, just so you know about this program. And so that's how we got started. And right away, it was like immediate help. Like from that very first visit, it was, first of all, my kids absolutely freaking love her. And then second of all, it helped me so much. It wasn't even just like, hey, this is the problem, this is your problem, this is the solution. It was like, she taught me like that this is normal, like, and this is the reason it's kind of like happening, and kind of walk me through how the kids' brains work. I've got a cold, my head is full of cotton. So like it's just really ever since then, I don't want to say I didn't know anything about kiddos. I took some child development in college. But even then, there were many things I did not know, and not 100% how to handle it. And so I felt like such a terrible mom going through this. And I'm like, is this because of me? Is this all my fault? And so having her there, honestly, even like just for like reassurance, and she's like, yeah, these are things you're doing right. And these are the things you can do to help. It's been amazing. And I look at like motherhood more as like a growing thing. And I look at problems that we have from 100% a different perspective, where it's something I can handle, it's something I can learn. And then being able to see where those developmental milestones, where they're at in those, it helps me understand it a little more so that I can still be a good mother and help them work through those things without losing my temper, because I understand it. I know what's going on. And so I can be the calm one in this situation and help my kids work through those things. Hopefully that kind of, hopefully that explained it a little bit. Were there any questions that I touch on? Kind of the general idea there.
Yes, thank you, Madison. That's really helpful. It makes such a difference to hear from families who are receiving the service, to understand what your experience has been. And I would say your experience is fairly common, right? We hear that a lot from families who are just like, I didn't even know I needed this until I had it, and now I can't do without it, right? I had an experience right when I first came into the job where I went to an event where we had families, and it was an event in the park, and there were different stations for the families to go to, and this to me was like, this is home visiting. So there was a mom there, her two little boys were very, very, very rambunctious, and you could tell a little bit beside herself, you know, she wasn't quite sure what to do with these rambunctious boys. And at one point, you know, they were having a great time, but at one point she had kind of grabbed the older of the two boys around the arm with a little bit of a vice grip. You know what this looks like, you guys. And she was trying to kind of get him to move to the next place. She was, you know, it was getting close to dragging. And then she looked up and she looked around and she said, "What am I supposed to do when he does this?" And to me, like, that was a moment where I was like, this is a woman who's had home visiting long enough. She knows that she can ask for help, that it's okay to ask for help. That's one of the things that home visiting, I think, really teaches, is that it's okay to have a support system. It's okay to reach out when you need that help. And then even better, you know, I had all of the home visitors were standing around and they were ready to jump in, but instead another mom went over to her and she said, "How about if we try red light, green light to get him to go where you want him to go and make it a game?" And the mom was just like, "Oh, yes." And the kid looks up and he's like, "Red light, green light. Yes, I'm all in." And so it was just this wonderful small moment that Madison gets all the time, right? Where I saw a mom who had been in the program longer really reach out, and with the tools that she had learned from our home visitors, be able to help another mom. And it was just like this, home visitors want to work themselves out of a job, right? But moms love them, moms and dads love them, because anyone who's been a parent can tell you, I mean, I have kids that are too old for the program, but I'd take a home visitor to help me with my 18-year-old right now. But I think the thing that's so cool about home visiting is it really is what Madison was talking about. It really is someone who will come into your home and see the good that you are doing and point it out. It's you know, it's parenting cheerleading. It's really cool. I just think, you know, I think we should all have one all the time. You know, a little cheerleader says, "Hey, great job on that email you just wrote," or right. But also give, like, whisper suggestions, like, "Have you thought about this?" Or, "Did you know that a child's brain develops like this? And these are some things that you should be expecting them to do. And these are some things that you can have some patience that they'll learn to develop later on." And then connecting with resources when, you know, when there are developmental delays that start to show up, or screening concerns that pop up. So for me, that's really been my experience with seeing home visiting on the ground. Madison, I'm so glad that you popped in. If you don't mind, we'd love to see your kids playing. You don't have to do that, but we just love the kiddos in the program too.
Oh, right now?
Well, you don't have to. That's putting
No,
you on the
that's
spot a
fine.
little bit.
Here, hold on. I'll flip it. If I turn this on, can you guys see anything? Sorry,
Yes.
I can't tell.
We can see you.
Oh, you see me?
Yeah.
I don't know
I
how
think
to.
you just have to flip your camera around.
You can just turn your phone if that's easier.
Myself.
Yeah, just
Here.
turn the phone.
There.
Yeah. Oh, how fun.
Yeah, so sorry. So we're playing in the water over here, and then we've got our friend Ryder and Lanny, and sorry, this is my friend Melissa. So we're all in here too, but sorry. Hopefully you didn't hear a whole lot of screaming and stuff in the background. They are having fun though.
We appreciate it, Madison. We're all stuck in offices and you know, in our home offices, and there's nothing better than the kids and pets who pop up in the background. So we love to see that. So thank you for sharing with us.
We're so lucky. I'm sorry, you guys. It's a nice day.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Madison and Laurieann. I think also, just for a little bit of context that probably should have been shared earlier, so I apologize. But the structure of home visiting is, I think, might be missing from the context of all of this. Is really most families who enroll in home visiting are in the program for an average of 2 years. If they enroll pre-pregnancy and are enrolled in a program, they could be enrolled for over 6 years. So the relationship with your home visitor is really essential because you're getting a visit on average between 2 times a month and 4 times a month, depending on the need of the family, for a duration of 2+ years for every single family. So those home visitors are really essential in that process. And you heard Madison talk about it a bit. But ultimately, what those home visitors are doing is really providing, just like Laurieann said, just cheerleading and support and encouragement for parents to be able to do what they do, providing a lending ear, but then also helping them connect to resources that exist in the community, helping identify, track and monitor child development and see if there are any concerns. And if so, helping identify referrals for those supports, or tracking, we track depression screenings for moms and for parents, and then make sure that they're getting the right referrals and support that they need in those spaces. So there's a lot of resource connection and referral connection, but also really just a lot of intensive support that's coming from the home visitors to make sure that the parents have whatever it is they need for whatever their situation is individualized. So it's really all about the family and the home visitor and the connections they have, and making sure that the program is tailored to fit the needs of that individual family and those individual children. That said, I think we are ready to head out into breakout sessions. So what will happen is, I believe everyone's been separated into breakout sessions. So as we go into the breakout sessions, we'll ask all of the home visitors to really start by explaining their experience as a home visitor, opening it up, talking about what a day in the life of a home visitor looks like. You're welcome to ask questions specific to the home visitors. And then what we'll focus on within those groups is really, how might you on the call as practitioners be able to support home visiting to improve outcomes for children and families in Utah? So I know that that's one of the big goals for this meeting, but we're hoping that you're understanding what home visiting is and understanding the experience of what home visiting is will help us as a group really identify different ways that we can collaborate with you as practitioners to be able to provide supports within the world of home visiting. And I will also copy and paste that question in here for you as we go out. We'll have about 30 minutes in the breakout rooms, and then we'll come back and share out on that question.
Quick question, is Cassie Decker here? I want to make sure you get in the right room. I'm not seeing you, but you might be one of the phone numbers.
Your speaker's still a little crazy, Nathan.
I know.
She will not be here today, Cassie. I apologize for that.
Hey. Oops.
Nathan, something went wrong. It seems like it's showing.
They're closing in 30 seconds. So I don't know why. It won't let me reopen them, I don't think, till it closes. There's no options. 1 second. Sorry.
No problem.
we having breakout room technical difficulty?
We're having to assign each
Reassign. Oh, okay.
individually. So Nathan is rapidly doing that and trying to keep it
Great.
as evenly divided as possible.
Okay, awesome.
Looks like we're filtering in now. So thank you for your patience, everybody. Looks like everyone should have received an invitation to a breakout room at this point. Have some of you not received one?
I went into breakout 5, but there was nobody else there.
These are all the facilitators. So let's get them in.
Let's get them
So
in.
everybody's there without their facilitator.
Okay.
At the bottom of your screen, does it have an option to join breakout rooms? No.
I'm just moving them
Yes,
individually.
I
Kat,
have it.
Found it.
sorry if this is not dividing up the way that we had intended initially. Breakout facilitators.
We're finding people to move. All of the unassigned people.
I
Okay,
went,
here we go.
so I was able to find the join out breakout button. I clicked on it, I went there, and then it kicked me back out.
Okay, so which group, Maren?
Breakout 5.
She should be in 5.
It happened the same to me, but I don't remember the group name or
You
number.
should be in group 3. And Shelby should be in group 2 as well.
Shows that you're assigned. Is it giving you the option to join those rooms?
Where would it say? I'm not seeing it on my screen.
It should have been a pop-up. I'm not quite sure.
I don't see it in my.
Oh,
I just
Laura's-
moved you, but I'm gonna move it to 3 again.
okay.
But it has both of you not joined. I don't know. There you go. Jeez.
What was wrong?
It said that there was an option to like make it assign automatically, and I had clicked that, but then I don't know if it deselected when I practiced it before or what the issue is. But
Okay, well, I'm just going to pop into a room, and it looks like you're not assigned or you haven't joined a room yet. So I'm going to just pop into a room and we'll see
me
on the
too.
other side.
sounds good.
All right. Kim, would you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Kim Fisher. I am the Vice President of Communication for Waterford.org and the Waterford Upstart program. But I've been a part of this group really since its inception. So I used to work in television journalism, and I have a background in early childhood trauma. And so, yeah, right when the group was put together, I've kind of been a part of the group. So been here from a transition from one career to another, all of it though with a focus on children. So that's great.
Awesome. Glad to have you. Joey, are you sticking around with us? You want to introduce yourself?
I am, if that's all right.
Sure, jump on in.
My name is Joey Thurgood. I am the Adverse Childhood Experiences Prevention Specialist for the Utah Department of Health, and I coordinate the Utah Coalition for Protecting Childhood, which is the coalition that sponsors these events, along with my program, the Violence and Injury Prevention Program at the Utah Department of Health. So thanks for your patience, everybody, and appreciate your willingness to join us today.
Yes, I guess I should have specified that that's the group that I'm a part of. I'm sorry. I thought everybody was was a part of the group. Sorry.
And that group is the Utah Coalition for Protecting Childhood, which is open to all. So if you are not a member and you'd like to join, please feel free to send me a message and I'll get you on the listserv.
Perfect. Thank you. Carly, would you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Carly Walker. I work for the EPIC program at the Utah Department of Health. I oversee their health equity work as well as their strategic planning. So I am interested kind of from a health equity perspective. So.
Perfect. Thank you. And Lori, last but not least.
Well, I'm not sure I need to be here, but I used to work for NFP. I'm at the health department up in Logan. So I was kind of curious to see what was going on because I loved the program and we're not doing it now. We do the TCM and just kind of miss it. So I want to see what's going on in the world.
Nice. Well, we want everyone here. We think that you can all help us. So if
I'm
you're
sorry
good
to
with
say
it,
I have to leave in 15 minutes. I'm sorry.
all right. No,
Thanks.
that's okay. So kind of the structure of this breakout session is that we have Olivia here, and Olivia, I'll let you introduce yourself in just a second. Olivia is going to kind of tell us what a day in the life of being a Prevent Child Abuse Parents as Teachers home visitor looks like. You all can feel free to ask her questions, and then we're going to pick your brains about how you can help home visiting in the state of Utah. So Olivia, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here and for being part of this awesome collaboration. And you know, our community does need any type of help that we can get. So the day in the life of me, since COVID, you know, we go virtually or we have the choice of visiting our families in person at their home, park, or wherever they feel comfortable that they can meet. Our life consists around different various lesson plans and just planning for the day. Our families do come with their each individual issues or things that we need to provide resources, or just basically being their partner in crime and their partner in being a parent and being the best parent they can be. Right now I have around 10 families that I do serve. My background is in early childhood. I came from Head Start, moved on to being a director, and moved on to after school programming. So I've been working with children for many years, and I absolutely love what I do. One of the unique things about home visiting is just the different dynamics of families and the different things that they come with and their different personalities. Not one of them are the same, and not one of them are, you know, not one of them have the same difficulties or same things that they do need in a one visit. Usually I do schedule out the visits maybe a week or two in advance, just so it gives the family that initial, you know, scheduled, and that they're on a just a, you know, a pattern of some sort. So they're used to me coming around and used to making sure that, you know, we have a set schedule to go by. Most families are chaotic, and I have a family of my own, and I know that sometimes we can't keep the schedule time. My schedule is I do go in for 1 hour in the beginning of a family receiving a new family. The visits run from 1 to 8 visits, and we call this foundational visits. And this is based off of a curriculum that we go off of. This teaches the family about the resources we give, a family well-being section. We go over parent and child development, parent interactions, and also going over what resources they do need, what current walls they're coming up with, and how I can provide those resources. These visits really do give us a good foundation for just building that trust relationship and building the trust with the family and building up the whole relationship with the entire family. We do have a focused child, and the focused child is usually under the age of 7. We go from prenatal to about 6 years old till they hit kindergarten. And we prepare them and their family for any challenges that come up during those years. We do provide resources that help them with going from financially to getting them prepared for preschool, to daycare, to helping them help with transportation. And the best thing about it is I just love seeing the progress from having someone be so codependent to being independent and just working by themselves, and then watching them grow and watching them use those resources to their advantage. At the beginning of all of these visits, we do 2 hours a month, or we do 2 visits for 1 hour a month. After the 8 visits is done, we scamper off to about 1 hour a month. So that's 1 visit a month. But with me, I try to keep in touch as much as I can with my families throughout those months. I check in. Sometimes I just will come, if I'm in the area, I'll let them know, hey, I'm in the area. Can I come see you guys and see how you guys are doing? And provide those resources that they do need. Sometimes I just need, to see the kiddos and to see how they're doing. I do have an ongoing relationship with the families on social media and just through email or text. A lot of my families have other kids that they are with, so they have older siblings, and I try to help with the older siblings as I can if I do see resources that come up. We do offer parent connections also, so we put that on monthly, and we invite these parents to do social interaction with other parents and getting to know what other parents resources they have also, and this also builds social interactions with the community, and just to see what else is out there for them. So another one, for example, is our roll and read that's coming up this week actually, and this is where we introduce literacy to our kids, and they bring their bikes and their scooters and things, and they go around the park and they visit each of our sections, and we introduce a book to them along with an activity that the parents can do at home. And speaking of activities, our visits consist of an activity that we observe the parents doing with their children, and we kind of are not the narrator, but we just encourage them to build that interaction with their children. So these activities usually are based around some type of development, whether it's language development, small motor, large motor, social emotional. We try to develop that core, just to teach the families and the parents about what the development is and how you're evolving these children to learn more about that. And so a lot of it is so development based, and what I love about it is that the parents will sometimes learn something completely new that they didn't know before about their child's development and how they're helping them develop better. So I could go on and on for hours about what I do. There's so many elements to it. There's so many things that I'm also learning about my job. But I definitely don't want to waste so much time. But I have, different experiences with different types of families, and I'm just learning as I go also. So.
Anyone have any questions for Olivia?
I do. So as a nonprofit organization, I work for Waterford.org, and we do the Waterford Upstart program. Mm-hmm. And our primary outreach focus is families who are underserved. And we find it so difficult to find these families. How do you find the families that you work with?
Honestly, I think word of mouth has really helped me. A lot of families have either, families who do are part of that low poverty, that low poverty community where word of mouth really gets around. Hey, I have a PAT educator that comes into my house. She brings these awesome activities for me and my kids. You should totally participate. And then the word gets out and they start communicating. Another one is social media really, really helps. Being part of the classifieds group, being part of Utah Moms, or moms just general looking for resources. There's a ton of groups out there. I'm also part of a group that, they do a weekly play date, and just being part of the play dates and going to these play dates and interacting with the moms there and the fathers there, I get my name around a lot better that way. And then also community, anything community that you can find, be part of it. Go to these community events and introduce yourself to whoever. I'm super extroverted and I love to talk. And so that's the best part of my job, is I get my talking out and just really encourage those to kind of look us up and see what we do. And I just, I think the community part is the biggest part, I think, for me. And then word of mouth is how I usually get my recruits. But I agree with you, it is tough. A lot of people don't want to identify with that section of the community, so it's hard for them to reach out for help. And so the fact that our program is so independent based that, eventually we just I'm just here to just help you out. I'm here to make sure that you are not stressed out as mom, and I'm here to be your partner in crime. If you need to cry, I will cry with you. If you need to just vent, I can vent with you. If you need worse resources, I'm not going to be that judgment on you for reaching out for those resources. So if that helps your question.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Olivia, I have a question. One of the main large goals when we talk about primary prevention, we're talking about fixing situations and environments so that they're healthier, so we don't get to the point where we need later secondary prevention or interventions later on down the road. And one of those really big determinants, you talked about it, Olivia, is the poverty, issues with economic instability. And so my question to you is, what sort of help, training, advice, support do you give to families to help them build a firmer foundation economically? And that's the first question. Then the second question is, do you talk with your clients about the importance of filing taxes so that they can get their child tax credits, their earned income tax credit? Those tax credits are such a huge, important piece to kind of building that firm financial foundation. So I just wondered if you do any outreach as far as connecting them with services to get their taxes filed for free through Utah Tax Help or anything like that. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, especially recently when we've gotten that child tax credit is talking to them about how to properly spend and what you're spending that on. I have had a couple of families that have asked, what's the best way to, get the dollar for my buck. We've looked at different nutrition groups, different grocery lists that they can spend more money on, buying in bulk, things like that. So yes, I have talked to them about that. And I know there's free programs, especially Head Start or ALCAP out here in Weber. We do refer them a lot to those places because they do have a time frame where they do offer the taxes for free. And then they go to those usually those community places and events that they put on. Another one, when you speak to, taking control of their life and broadening their life a little bit more. I think one of the biggest things that I do talk about a lot is school and going to college and getting a degree. I think that a lot of them think, I have a high school diploma, so that should be enough. Or I do have the young ones or the young teen moms who just decide I'm not going to go back to school or get my diploma. And I think that when I speak to, making their lives better and their children's lives better, is I tell them, it's really good as a role model for your child to, strengthen your education and get that education in so that you could speak to that. So I do look at college with them. I did actually just have this conversation yesterday with a young mom that I have, and she's thinking about going back. And I said, we do have FAFSA, we've got student loan places that you would qualify for as being a young mom, where sometimes the college tuition is free if you do get that government assistance. And she looked at me and had no idea. And so now she's looking at some of those options for her that wasn't available to her. But as a young mom now it is, and she's able to look at different things for her future. And then also talking to them, some families are very interested in military, and talking to them about military and getting involved in the military. So as our nonprofit, we use community resources. Literally, we try to get as much information as we can. We are part of Discord, where we all kind of chime in on resources that we see on Facebook or we see just out in the community, and then we share those resources. So if we do get free taxes that we can provide for our families and they can go in and get that done, definitely we do around that time. So I think the biggest thing that I try to encourage is schooling, and education is the biggest thing.
I know you've talked a little bit about this. Can you talk a little bit about how you kind of divide your time and like the different areas of like responsibilities as a home visitor that you step into?
Yeah, of course. This is a good one. So with the pandemic, I know, so a little bit about me is I used to be a assistant director for YMCA. So I ran after school programming for about 14 different schools in Ogden. And that with the pandemic all changed everything. And so I decided to flip my career path and go with PCAU and Parents as Teachers. So with that and virtual, it is so different than being face-to-face. So what I usually do is I have a day. So usually Mondays are my prep days. And so those are the days where I divide my lesson plans, and I divide, okay, this week I have this family and this family, this lesson plan is going in with this family. And I prep my Mondays for the rest of the week. And so I usually have a big bag that I take with me, and I bring my resources and my supplies with me in those bags and divide it up that way. On Tuesdays and Thursdays are going to be my face-to-face visits. And so I prepare myself to, okay, this is my mileage for the day, get myself prepared to do those visits. And I try to square it away for at least 4 to about 5 visits that day. So I get them all in one day. Very often, I'll get a family who can't visit me that day, or they've had a new job come in, or they've had, a kiddo who gotten sick. I'll usually offer virtual later. I try not to go a little later than around 6 to 7 o'clock at night, just because I've got my own family time that I have to make sure that I get. So when I do have a family that tries to reach out, I will usually make sure that I, work around their new schedule or whatever is going on in their family life, because I've got a family of my own. I know things come up. I know things get crazy and chaotic at the last minute. So I try to work with them as much as I can. And so I try to divide my work up that way. And then Wednesdays are usually virtual days. If I've got a family who need to meet virtually, Wednesdays will be my virtual days. And that will also be combined with paperwork and any paperwork that we have in our data collection that I need to accomplish. Fridays, I will make sure that I have anything left over on Fridays is when I do divide that work, or if I need to see a family last minute. And also when I do have virtual families, this is the day that I go and drop off supplies to their doorstep, because the virtual activities that I do usually involve, let's say pom-poms or popsicle sticks that I do need to drop off. And that will usually be the day that I drop off those supplies, or any resources that they do have. We just got a huge shipment of free pack and plays and baby tubs and car seats. And so those are the days that I'll usually drop off those resources. But definitely you have to make sure that you keep up with a good schedule so that your families are used to this schedule and know that the days that you do come out. But like I said, I'm pretty lenient and try to make sure that I accommodate to all my families. Sorry, I think she froze. I don't know if that was me or...
Speaking about education, I would love to talk to you, Olivia and Sarah, offline a little bit about, we're trying to strengthen our partnerships with other groups that are reaching 4-year-olds with Waterford Upstart. And so the way the state of Utah works right now with our program is it doesn't matter if a child is in Head Start or pre-K or at home with mom and dad, you can utilize Waterford Upstart as a family engagement piece. And so we have found that by partnering with groups like Head Start, it has been phenomenal in terms of getting the families more engaged with what their child is learning. A lot of families in underserved communities, especially if there's a language barrier, will feel like they don't have the knowledge or they're not confident in helping their child learn. And so we give them the tools in their own native language that makes it a lot easier. And the teachers that are in Head Start, pre-K, whatever the case is, are starting to see a lot more interaction with families. And so we would love to give you all some more information on that and then form a partnership of some sort where we can also provide you materials at no cost that you can provide to families too. So I don't know.
Oh, I just love this. I love to hear partnerships coming out of these meetings.
Yeah.
It's just exactly what these are for.
It makes
so exciting.
It makes so much sense, like listening to what it is that you all do. It's like all of it comes back around to setting a good foundation for this child. And so, yeah, I don't know. How can we do that moving forward? Sarah, are you the person I need to speak with at the Department of Health?
Yeah, I am a good contact just because I work with all the sites across the state. So if you pop your email into the chat, I'll make sure and make a note to reach out to you after.
Yes, and Olivia, you as well. And then I know Head Starts do their own home visitation too. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think if anyone else in here wants that email, feel free to chime in.
Throwing it in right now.
Yeah, we refer to Upstart quite a bit, but we our early Head Start services graduate at 3 years old, but we'll, with siblings and stuff like that, we'll refer frequently.
That when those early Head Start kiddos graduate, that's the time that they need to be registering for Upstart. So it can be like that seamless continuing their education to make sure they walk into kindergarten ready. So yes.
Is that available at 3 or do they have to be?
They can register at 3, and what happens is they get the alert when their child is ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like that simple handoff.
I would say if you want Kim, I will email you kind of about home visiting across the state. If you want Kim to reach out to you, maybe go ahead and pop your email in the chat.
Yeah.
That's a good segue to our next part of this conversation because we've heard a lot from Olivia, which was awesome and amazing. We can keep picking Olivia's brain. But the next piece is we want to know how you all, as folks across the state who work with children and are practitioners in the early childhood field, what do you think you all can do to collaborate with or refer to or support home visiting across the state? Does anything kind of pop up? Kim, got the ball rolling.
Sorry, I jumped right in front of that ball, actually. I was like,
no, I love it. It was the perfect
Kim
segue.
wins that part.
I know.
In my situation with the state where we're with the state, our purpose is just to raise awareness, is just to try and make sure people are aware that these services exist. And so my question, I kind of bounce back to you. What can we do in our program, besides offering a venue like the ACES Learning Collaborative to, kind of expand your reach? What can we do to support and, filter and move people in that direction where they can, they're aware of and they know to participate in these programs?
Yeah, that's a good question. Funny enough, we were talking about home visiting with a partner, and we had someone send us this webinar and say, have you guys heard of this? This might be a good resource, not realizing that that was us and that is our office. So visibility and knowledge of the program is low. That's a huge piece. I think knowing where our programs are, because like Kat said, we would love to expand, and ideally one day every family who wanted some type of home visiting could have that. We're not quite there. So it's kind of important to know where we are right now, as well as like other folks who are providing evidence-based home visiting, right? Like Callie's working with Early Head Start. We had some folks who used to work for NFP. I will say one thing our programs could use supporting kind of across the board right now is referrals. With the pandemic, some families left, we got new families, but it did shake up enrollment. So if you come across families who meet those requirements, send them to your local home visiting program. You can reach out to our office if you want to get them into the right place. That is one area that kind of sites across the state could use support in right now. Olivia, do you have anything else in particular?
I think that one thing that I have found is being part of any community events that you do put on, and we're able to table that and kind of collaborate with other people and other nonprofit resources. One thing that I was part of last year, and this is out of context of my job now, this is when I was an assistant director, we were part of a nonprofit event night where families and other nonprofits could come by and could come to each table and just kind of see what we do and get our cards, exchange numbers. And that way we were able to kind of, just kind of vent, kind of meet other people and other partners that we could possibly partner with. And then families were able to roam around and see different resources out there. So it really did broaden our understanding of what other people do around the community. And that really did help. I am really surprised at how many people don't know what Parents as Teachers is. And so I'm like, well, we need to hit the streets. We need to hit where our community and our low poverty community meets, markets, we need to meet parades, we need to go somewhere where the families are, the parks, the community events that are happening, and kind of just get our names out there. So if you've got anything coming up, an event that we could benefit from, and also you could benefit from us being there, I think is a big, huge help with that.
Olivia, what about non-traditional settings? Like, what about tabling at a farmer's market or something like that?
Yes, I am all for it. Yeah, all for it. I have even reached out, and I know that a lot of the times they worry about if this is a fundraising event or if this is something that we could profit from, or we do have to buy, because I know that most tablings you do have to reserve, and a certain amount of money is there to reserve. But if we do see an event coming up and we have the time and we have the money to do it, yeah, I'm all for it. We do have LUPEC coming up, which is the Hispanic Festival here in Ogden that's coming up, and we're going to put a table there. So anything, I'm totally down for going to parade and passing out flyers. And like I said, I'm an extrovert. I'll just grab whoever. Hey, have you heard of us? We're pretty awesome, kind of a thing. So I'm all for that kind of thing. Yeah. Non-traditional, definitely.
I know we just have like 30 seconds left. So the other thing that comes to mind is that our home visitors do a lot of assessments with families and screenings. All of our primary caregivers are screened for depression, intimate partner violence. Children are screened with ASQ, the home environments observed. So any expertise you have, or if we can make referrals to you for supports, that's super helpful. And you can also reach out to our office with that, and we can get you connected to the right program.
Room.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but our breakout group was super exciting and fun. And my apologies to everybody who ended up in room 2 without a home visitor and that we had to shuffle you there at the last minute, but thanks for working with us on that. So we'll just turn the time back over to Laurieann and Kat to bring us home.
All right, can everyone see that screen again? Perfect. I think we just wanted to spend a couple of quick minutes. I think we have about 10 minutes, just asking folks from your groups. We're not going to make every group present out individually, but if there are folks who would like to volunteer and talk about what you kind of talked about in your breakout groups, if there was anything in particular that you think was really great and you'd like to share out about in terms of how practitioners and how all of us can collaborate together and support home visiting for children and families in Utah.
Can I nominate Kim Fisher?
Sure. Yeah. So in our breakout room, we heard from Olivia, and she's with PCAU, and she had been talking about the work that she did in her outreach and how education is a big part of it. Not only educating the kids, but educating the families. And it just feels like a perfect partnership. We are working to strengthen our partnerships, Waterford.org, my nonprofit organization, to get the word out about Waterford Upstart a bit more. It is a state-funded early education program that's done in the home. And we are at a position within the state where it doesn't matter if the child is at home full-time in the year before kindergarten, if they are in pre-K, if they are in Head Start, if they are in childcare, they can utilize our program at home with families to create a family engagement tool. And it's been phenomenal with the children, especially who are going to, like we're working with Granite preschool right now, and we are doing Upstart at home, and we're combining those efforts and looking at the data. And I have a feeling it's going to be wonderful just with the work we've done with Head Start in the past. But all of that to be said, I would love to work with any of the home visitation groups to figure out how we can partner and how we can provide more tools, more information, whether it's flyers, videos, whatever the case may be, to help these families get that early education foundation for their kiddos and feel empowered to communicate with schools. What we find a lot of times is with families, especially families where English is a second language, or maybe they speak a different language altogether. We do provide supports for those families in their native languages. And what we find is that those families especially have a hard time communicating with schools because they are not confident and they feel like they can't really, communicate as fluently as maybe an English speaker. And so what we see with our program is that we give those families the confidence to be able to engage in their child's learning. And that is just, it's such a big thing for these kiddos to feel like they're supported by their families before they go to kindergarten. So all of that to be said, I'm really excited. My email address is in the chat, and I would love to provide anything we can to help make a partnership stronger.
Thanks, Kim. We also will share out our email addresses for both Laurieann and I, and then are happy to connect you with other home visiting sources as well for everyone on the call, and we'll make sure that that gets shared out through the email listserv so that you have access to reach out to us at any point. Is there anyone else that would like to share out or to nominate someone to share?
I'll share. I was with Kimberly, and she was sharing her experience as a parent educator. And one of the things that we were discussing at the end is sometimes the challenge that a home visitator has with a family that is just different culture. You know, we have many Latino families, we have families who come from refugees and things like that. And you're trying to do your best, and you're trying to teach this family something to work with their children. But the first barrier is not only the language, but the cultural language, right? Like understanding. She was sharing this this fact about this Colombian family she's been working with, that they shave their baby's head. And that's something that me as Hispanic Latino, of course, I've heard of it, right, before. And it's just really funny because, like, if you don't know those kinds of things, it could be like a little bit of a barrier to have a contact with this family, right? Because it could be taken as like, why is this lady telling me like this is not right? And not that Kimberly said that, but just kind of like, I see that as a barrier. Like, even though I'm Hispanic and I work with Hispanic communities, sometimes I have a hard time trying to understand like where they come from, or why do they do things that they do. But it's hard for me speaking their language. So I couldn't imagine for Kim, like trying to go for that and trying to help this family and providing all the services that you can't, and it could be frustrated. So I think it's just an amazing work that the supervisors and the Parents as Teachers program do, because it's not only the poverty, it is not only the language, there's many things behind it. So I was just really curious to hear from her story, and thank you, Kimberly, for sharing, and thank you for the amazing work you do.
Thanks, Miriam.
Thank you, Miriam, for sharing. And I think also thank you to all of our home visitors. And I don't believe she's on the call anymore, but thank you to for bringing in a family to speak. I think it's a really good reflection of what home visiting is in Utah. We have a couple more minutes left if there's maybe one other person who would like to speak.
I know that this did get talked about a little bit in breakout 2 because they didn't have a home visitor that was assigned. And so we had to do the little shuffle there at the end. But prior to that, Andrea Jensen was talking about asthma program, the asthma program's home visiting program. I wondered if it would be okay if she took just a quick minute to talk about that a little bit. Andrea, would you be willing to tell us a little bit about that in the main room?
Sure, happy to help. I actually filled some time in the breakout room because we didn't realize we were supposed to have a different home visitor, so they were stuck listening to me. I'm like, well, I can share what I do. So I am based down here in Utah County. I'm a certified asthma educator. I get funding from UDOH and trickles down from CDC. So our program's evidence-based, and we follow the 3-visit model. And the first visit is in-depth asthma education, checking their inhaler technique, making sure they understand how to use their nebulizer, making sure they understand the difference between a rescue inhaler and a controller inhaler, what triggers to look for them, how to avoid those. And they set a goal. For most people, it's to actually use their inhaler, as they should be morning and night. Second visit, we do an environmental assessment of the home, and we talk about the basic asthma triggers, where they're found in the home, and what you can do about them. And we provide a mattress, pad cover, pillowcase cover, and a bucket of allergy and asthma-friendly cleaning supplies. Salt Lake County always has more funding than I do, and they partner with Green and Healthy Homes, and so they can also offer an air purifier, a HEPA vacuum, and then GHHI will also come in and remove carpet, install solid flooring, can replace furnaces. They check for lead, they check for radon, they do all that. I do all that for my county when I'm helping my people. And then the third visit is a follow-up to see how they're doing. And then we check with them 6 months down the road and a year down the road to make sure that they're maintaining their asthma control. Oftentimes they'll fall back into old habits of not using their inhaler correctly, or not using it at all, or their insurance changes. And then we're also focusing on their social determinants of health with this 5-year grant cycle. So we'll also help them with housing, if they need help with rent, if they need food, if they need help with utilities, their kid needs speech therapy, whatever it is, if they're not feeling safe in their home and they need some domestic violence help, whatever it is, we help in other areas as well. So that's how our program works. Oh, and last thing I was going to say is since the pandemic started, I started doing virtual visits. I have an online DoxyMe I use, which is a HIPAA clinic, HIPAA compliant. And I do almost all virtual visits. I'm not doing the environmental assessments during COVID, which is really hard because a lot of times I can do the smell test. Since I have allergies and asthma, oftentimes I'm triggered when I usually have an asthma attack in the homes, and then I can say, okay, you know, they've got pet urine in here, or I find mildew or mold or different things like that. But for now, it's virtual. They can use their tablet and they can show me if they have an area in their bathroom that they're concerned about, water intrusion, anything like that. They can, and they can take pictures and text them to me as well. So I see a question here. It's not in Weber County yet. We're working on that. One thing that we're working on right now, we have 2 counties where we're kind of testing out Medicaid referrals. If we can get Medicaid to reimburse us for that, then hopefully we could also have some third party reimbursers as well. That's our ultimate goal, is to get this statewide. I'm always willing to help people out of county, even though doing virtual visits, I can't get the cleaning supplies to them, but I can do all of the education since I'm doing it virtually anyway. So happy to help anybody. It's kind of my life. I have asthma and allergies. My kids have allergies and asthma. I've been doing this for 21 years. It's really my passion. So I'm happy to help anybody that needs it.
Thanks, Andrea.
That brings up another question. Andrea mentioned Medicaid reimbursement, and Kat, I wonder, can you tell me whether or not there's any sort of collaboration or reimbursement mechanism, or the possibility of the development of that sort of mechanism for home visiting?
Yeah, Laurieann is laughing, I can see, because this is a really big conversation. So there are Medicaid reimbursed home visits, like for TCM, as I spoke about earlier, which is targeted case management. There are some programs nationally that receive reimbursement for Medicaid, but in Utah, it's pretty limited to very specific programs. So Attachment Biobehavioral Catch-up, ABC, does receive Medicaid reimbursement and insurance reimbursement because it's billed as a mental health service. So each different type of home visiting program is viewed as differently in terms of whether or not it qualifies for Medicaid reimbursement. But overall, by and large majority of home visiting programs that exist in the state of Utah do not receive Medicaid reimbursement at this time. We are and have been having conversations with Medicaid for the last several months about figuring out how to address that and see if we can get Medicaid reimbursement for home visiting programs, but that hasn't been resolved quite yet. And I will add to, I think, Andrea's asthma program, asthma home visiting program, I think is a really great example of different ways where different types of home visiting can actually collaborate really well together. So similar to like early intervention or asthma home visiting, those programs can coincide at the same time as the Nurse Family Partnership or Parents as Teachers home visiting program. And then it's really up to the family. So sometimes families will pick and choose 1 or 2 programs just because it can be overwhelming for them, or a lot for them. But from the perspective of the Office of Home Visiting, and I know PCAU feels this way as well as some of the others who are on the call, the ultimate goal is to get the families enrolled in whichever program is best suited for them, and whether that's addressing their highest needs or addressing whatever they prioritize, or getting them enrolled in every single program that they have interest in, or if it's a time capacity or commitment issue, whatever that is. Our goals are really to make sure that families are in the programs that are best suited for them, and not necessarily just our program. So I think when it comes to collaboration, that's what we're looking at, is like what is best for the family, and how do we collaborate with as many of you as possible to make sure the families are getting the supports that they need and want. All right, I think we're close to time, because we need to give folks from VIPP some time to wrap up, but we'll make sure that this gets sent out to all of you. But this is a list of all of the Office of Home Visiting supported home visiting programs, as well as their contact information. But an easier way is also just to reach out to either us. You can email any of us, or you can email Laurieann or refer to Emma at PCAU. And we're always happy to answer any questions or collaborate in any way with all of you. So thank you for joining, and I will turn it back over to Joey.
Thank you so very much. This has been such a great opportunity to kind of get a more in-depth glance into home visiting programs. I know for me, I know a lot about them on the surface, but not really about the inner workings, and being able to do that breakout was really helpful to me. I want to thank everybody for sticking with us. Even though we had a smaller group this month, I think it was a really productive conversation. So thanks so much for that. Our next ACES Learning Collaborative, we're super excited about the next one that will be upcoming. I don't have all of the details ironed out at this point, but we are planning on offering a 4-hour protective factor training, which will include CEUs. So we are going to be working to get some continuing education credits. And so please keep your eyes peeled for an announcement and a save the date for that event. But that's all the time that I needed. I know that Denora had a question in the chat, and it looks like maybe she's getting connected with Andrea Jensen with the asthma program. So that's great. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. It looks like we've just got a couple of minutes left. So we'll give you back 4 minutes of your day. But again, thank you for joining us, and please consider joining us for our next event, which will be an extended 4-hour event, either a 4-hour training in one day, or it might be broken up over a couple of days. These are details we haven't ironed out yet, but we are making an effort to make sure we provide some CEUs for that event. So thank you so much, everybody. You're fantastic, and I hope to see you next quarter.